Chapter 12. Dryad Shade. Bard was greeted with a wet nose and lots of sniffing. He rolled. He was still tired. He heard a harumph and groaned just a little longer. He asked and Kai put his foot on his chest. Okay, Kai. Bard struggled against the pressure. He was wide awake now. Kai seemed to chuckle before removing the foot, allowing Bard to breath. Bard growled and then felt a gentle hug. He looked over to see Sen comforting him. Sorry, you weren't waking, she said, and Bard looked at her confused. Had she tried to wake him, or had she just gone and fetched Kai instead? Dad and Uncle Keith are doing a lot better now. They're ready to explore and find those shaded trees. Oh, was all Bard had to say to that. He reached over to find his shoes and found they were missing. He looked at Sen with an amused frown, and she smiled before handing them to him. He got ready and loaded Kai. They kept the load light as he wanted to traverse on Kai today with those two. It would be a bit awkward, but he felt like it was safer to do that this time, instead of having them ride their deer. As he came out, he saw them preparing their trees and smiled. He didn't trust trees to not turn on in this instance, and he wasn't sure the deer would outpace any shades and not panic. Kai was the natural choice. Bard, defend once you, Keith said. Amir stopped what he was doing. Thank you, Bard said before switching into Dryadic. I worry that those trees might turn on us if we encounter shades, and deer could panic since they aren't used to shades yet. Why don't we all ride on Kai? He stated. Can he carry all of us? Amir asked. Bard nodded. Have Sen show you what to do, he encouraged. Sen waved her hand and assisted them while Bard walked to the side where Defender rested. Elwood seemed to be conversing with him. As he approached, Elwood paused and turned to look at him. You came, Elwood greeted. Bard returned the greeting. We were discussing Sen's progress. It's a bit slow, isn't it? Bard supplied. You could say that. But back when we did have more tokens, the other without often was slow initially, and then sped up as the day came closer. With just over half the year, we are certain you will both make it. It's impressive she has healer's token. He gave them out sparingly, Defender stated. Oh, Bard said as he looked at Defender. He switched to Dryadic. By the way, that other tree, the one whose song I played, what was her name? Elder Hope, Defender answered. Bard pondered on it. She was Defender's sister, since she was burned to death, and he failed to defend her and now his people. It's no surprise his song is wavering. The fact that she was his hope also made more sense why Defender was having a hard time. I see, Bard muttered. Bard, son of Father Tree, despite you having not completed the pledge, I offer something to help you on your journey, Defender spake. Bard perked up and paid attention. Suddenly a branch was extended to him and on that branch was a stringed silver token. Bard's jaw dropped, and he shifted his position to receive this with respect. But I don't understand. I haven't completed your trial. You have defended Sen from humans, found those who would seek peace and protected us from the shades. You are in essence a defender, and are more than worthy to receive this. But then, Sen he started and Elwood hushed him, will receive hers when you both return at the end of the pledge. She is a daughter of this wood and has already grown much. She has a bit more to learn, but we believe she will as she travels with you. Then, I accept, Bard said humbled. He returned to the others and Amir stared at where his tokens lay, and then climbed on Kai. Bard wasn't sure what that was about, but he climbed up after and was followed by Keith. Bard made sure to situate himself, so the others could climb and grab the harness if needed. Kai understands Tekka, so make sure if you need to change course, you let me know, Bard said calmly. The two Dryads nodded and Bard urged Kai on. As they traveled, Amir directed them to the location. Bard passed light sticks to them in case of separation, and then pulled out a sunstone he had and let it charge in the light of the day. Keith sang to have the trees part for them. Without warning, Kai full stopped and nearly threw them. Bard had the wherewithal to grab the two and hold onto them so they didn't get thrown. Thanks, Keith muttered. Amir however was saying all sorts of things in rapid succession as he climbed back to his spot. Bard nodded and then focused on where Kai's ears were pointing. He saw the first movements of something black at the edge, and he fished out his flute and grabbed his tokens. Since Defender was nearby, and doing a bit better, he would be of great help. With how he reacted, the other two sobered and focused on what he saw. They're still so close, Keith muttered. Indeed, this is a concern, Amir agreed. Bard watched carefully and then tapped Kai to have him move so they could get a better view. He briefly looked about and saw a ledge, which he signaled to Kai to go to. They climbed it with some difficulty. Keith was about to sing to have the trees part, but Bard stopped him. The shades needed darkness, and if the trees parted it would bring in too much light. He also wasn't sure how the shaded trees would react to the sound of music. Since they were shades he wasn't used to, for now, they would observe. They watched as more shaded trees gathered. Bard had a sinking feeling as the darkness grew and more trees gathered. Then some of the trees near them became black. It was a gradual process. Was the song weakened already? Why were they shading? He felt Keith stiffen and looked at him to see his gaze somewhere else. A black deer with a rider who was also black came towards the trees. Occasionally he passed through some light, but didn't flinch. Then the rider dismounted and Bard's breath caught in his chest. The figure turned to look at them and Bard saw glowing green eyes. Horn-like branches were atop its head. Hair-like shadows floated around his head. The eyes fixated on Bard, and he felt like he was drowning. As the suffocation continued, Bard noticed the elder Dryad-like figure reach into its shadow form, and then a string appeared with tokens. Most were completely black until a couple non-black ones appeared. Bard recognized one of those tokens. It was the same as the one he had just received, Defender's silver token. His vision began to blur, though he could still see the silver token, and his confusion mounted. Bard felt lightheaded and then pitched forwards, barely registering the arms catching him. When he came to, Kai was running and Keith and Amir looked relieved. "Where is the shade with the green eyes?" Keith asked and Bard nodded. "He charged us as you blacked out. Kai has been avoiding his pursuit, and it seems we finally lost him," Amir said as he looked back once again. "Another pack leader? Or was it a type of harbinger for forests?" Bard asked himself, "What is this word? Harbinger?" Keith asked, trying to say it. "Oh, some shades are like pack leaders, and Sen calls them harbingers, like the leaders of destruction. I'm used to seeing a six-eyed shade before and after the destruction of villages and such, but I've never met one that had that distinct a shape as a..." He stopped speaking, knowing the two beside him were not looking all that pleased. "Sorry, no, I agree. He looked a lot like a Dryad, an elder Dryad at that. It's even entirely possible he came from these woods, seeing as he had a silver token," Amir said with a bit of a growl in his tone. As they came into the circle of light, Kai hummed a whimper sort of tone. Bard froze. He had promised Kai he could rest, and the past several days were filled with fighting shades and running in the woods with people on his back. "Sorry buddy, why don't you get some rest?" Bard said as he moved off and started to unload Kai. Sen came over and helped him while Amir and Keith dismounted. Those two headed to Elwood, who had a sad sort of smile on his face. Bard wondered how much that elder knew. Of course, he hadn't asked, but he felt that if the Dryad's safety was at risk, then someone should have said something sooner. This was getting ridiculous. The three Dryads separated from the rest, and had a discussion in front of Defender, before calling Sen over. Then they asked for him to join. Bard wondered what it was they had been speaking about, but figured it wasn't the time to ask when he saw their expressions. "You are building a village that will combine all the techniques to withstand the shades, Bard. Is that correct?" Defender asked. Bard nodded. "With my song as weak as it is, it would be wise to join forces to ensure the protection of all of us, along with these humans who have forsaken their warring traditions," Defender agreed. Bard looked at all of those present. "Leaders of the Dryads, have we talked to the others about this?" Bard asked. "I've already spread rumors of your adventures outside, and it won't take much for the people to be willing to move from this place. As for treating the humans well, that will take time. If they are pursuing tokens with perspective, then it will be easier." Elwood paused as he looked at Sen. "We will do all we can to ensure that Sen and your pledge is completed. Do not worry about the year time frame. It is important that you two are able to finish the rituals. It will be a beacon of unification. But more than that, we wish for both of your happiness," Keith said, foregoing the human tongue for this. Bard noticed Amir still seemed to squirm, but then he fixed a smile and nodded. At least, he seemed to be coming around to this. It had more bearing than just saving a Tekka's life. Bard bowed. "Thank you. It means a lot that we have your support in this. Now, as much as I would like to help with getting everyone ready, I too need a bit of a break. Bard sighed a weary sigh. It has been non-stop since the battle with the shades at the human village, Sen agreed. And you've shouldered a lot. I'll help grandfather and father get everyone ready, she offered. Bard thanked her, and she wrapped her arms around him. Amir gritted his teeth as Sen gave him a warm hug before shooing him to go rest. Sen kept Bard resting for a few days, until he couldn't stand to see her looking so ragged herself and had her rest with Kai. Of course, she fell asleep pretty fast in his warm fur. As he emerged, he was amazed at the sight of the trees standing and moving about. Houses were shifted for travel, and it looked like most breakable styles were changed for movable and practicality. There were plenty of food and supplies gathered as well in the few days he was resting. His own home, however, hadn't been changed, likely to allow the inhabitants to rest. Bard noticed the herbs that were gathered, and it looked like a lot of seed as well. Several of the hardy winter plants had been moved to transportable containers, and water, partially frozen, was being moved with several trees. Bard was quite impressed. Amir and Elwood greeted him, and then had him help sparring Tree and Keith pack the weapons and equipment. They intended to give the villagers weapons so they could arm themselves against the shades. But Bard also said that some of these could be reforged into tools to help the village, so even if the original intention wasn't effective, it would still be used. By nightfall, the place was ready to depart. They finished changing Bard's tree to one that would move and stayed within the light as best as possible. When the morning came, the mists departed and the trees were off. Bard rode Kai, as he was far too heavy for the trees to move. However, Kai experienced a severely lightened load. Sen opted to move the tree and Kai stayed nearby. Bard enjoyed hearing her sing, and after they came to the river, they followed against the current, heading east. As the river turned to creeks and then vanished altogether, they changed to a northern-eastern direction. Bard knew this area well. Another elder tree was nearby. If not that they had to stay with the group and guide and direct them, he would have taken a slight detour and visited so they wouldn't have to come back through the area again. They made excellent time, and Bard found them a place to camp, surrounded by pines and firs. The foliage left many dark places on the ground, but with the silver branches, the light reflected well into those areas. When night finally fell, they were well prepared to stop the shades, but hardly any came. Bard was confused at this, and so were the others. He would have assumed, with this type of forestry, it would have been ideal for the shades to come after them. The very fact they hadn't been worrisome, perhaps it's a blessing. Perhaps Elvira's prayers were a real thing, Sen said, as she came and checked on Bard. If this is the effect of Elvira's prayers, then why is that the catfolk who are so devout to him also face the shades and the threats of them? Bard asked. They do. Sen's brows furrowed. They were the ones who taught me the most about them, outside of the elder who also taught me, but that elder resides near a caravan route, so it makes sense the two groups shared a lot of information, Bard explained. Sen shivered as she came near. Bard noticed and pulled his cloak off. No, I don't need that. You'll get cold, Sen protested. But you are cold. I'll head inside in a bit, Bard responded as he forced the cloak on her. He felt the slight sting of the cold, but remained unfazed by it. She, however, hummed and melted into the warmth. Bard smiled. She could be quite cute like this. Then they heard a cough behind them. Excuse me, Amir said, and Bard was surprised by his sudden appearance. He looked at Sen, who seemed to duck in embarrassment. I'll pretend I didn't see that. You should wait till you are fully wed before such actions. Would you have preferred I let her freeze? Bard muttered. This was one of those situations he had heard from the catfolk. A situation that didn't have a good outcome in some people's eyes. And those eyes were Amir's. Amir coughed as if to say he heard that, but didn't have an answer to that question. Thank you for taking care of her. Kai seemed restless, so I came to fetch you, Amir said, and Bard perked at that statement. Kai? Sen asked and Amir nodded. Bard excused himself and left to check on his friend.